MASH Visits the Twilight Zone is a movie idea that I came up with when MASH announced that they were going to end the series with a 90-minute made-for-TV movie. I thought this would be cool, but I was afraid that they were going to do this old standby flashback over many seasons. I figured a better way to do that would be to flash forward, show how being in the war affected their lives afterward. It allowed for the old stars that have left the show to have a spot in the series' final ending episode. Even Henry Blake, Radar O'Reilly, Frank Burns, even though they've all left the show, would be able to have a small spot in this. In fact, one of them is almost mandatory. So, we delve into MASH Visits the Twilight Zone. Okay, so the movie opens up, and it's in that little bar that they have. The peace treaty has been signed. The war is over. They're sending troops home, except, yep, you know it, the MASH units are like the last to leave. Just in case something happens, there'll be somebody there to pick up the mess. In their area, there's not a whole lot of casualties because a lot of the enemy and American soldiers aren't about to put themselves out there if the war is over. So these guys are just hanging out bored, and they're lamenting into their bears about how their lives could have been different had they not been in the war. BJ starts it, his daughter is X number of years old, and oh yeah, just as an inside joke, make her older than the war. The war went on for 3 years to make her 5. And BJ's lamenting about how he missed all those years seeing his daughter grow up. Of course, Winchester has to boast that he could have been chief of surgery at Boston General. His big dream is taken away because he was here. You know, but others are going to be quite happy. They're going to go back to Toledo or Crabapple Cove and forget this war ever existed. And not everybody in there has to have a complaint, but still, Rizzo might want to go back to Louisiana and open himself up a grill. And the cook, the last thing he's going to want to ever do is cook again. So anyways, they finish their drinking and complaining, and they go to bed and crash. And it's morning, and Hawkeye is woken up by the sound of an approaching helicopter. So he drags himself out of bed, tries to razz the other people and head out, you know, incoming, as they say, when the helicopters are coming. And he runs up to the helipad all by himself because everybody else is like, they don't hear a thing. He's just some wacko with a hangover running up to the helicopter pad. And so they leave him be. It's still crack of dawn, sun's not up yet, you know. And he gets up to the helipad, and it's a brand new business type of helicopter. I mean, we wouldn't use one from the 2000s. We'd have to get one from the point in time that the show was canceled. It was at the state of the art for that year, because that's the way I wrote it. Henry Blake just steps out of the helicopter and hands him a small portable television with great reception. One period correct for the year that MASH ended. And as Henry Blake hands Hawkeye this TV, he says, "This will help ease your boredom." Gets in the helicopter and flies away. Now, awake, Hawkeye goes back to the swamp, plugs the TV in, hands a wire, turns it on, tries to see if he can get anything. So, BJ comes up to the TV, and he brings up an already in-progress news forecast, where they have reached the point in the forecast. For now, for the lighter side of the news, it appears that this year's den mother for the Girl Scouts is actually a man. And the news clip turns to B.J. Honeycutt and his family and tells the story of how when he came back from the war, his little girl wanted to be a brownie, and there was no such organization in that area. So he organized one with his wife because you needed a female for the den mother, but over the years it became more him and less her. And when the troop, his wife, got the Den Mother of the Year award, she refused it because it was more him than her. He ran that troop with military efficiency and fun all at the same time. She just helped with the baking and the sewing and the, instruction part. And, wow, BJ's elated. It seems as though he makes up for missing out with his daughters growing up. And, of course, right about now, Charles Emerson Winchester III is roused by this noise, and he walks over, and now the newscast switches over to another story. It seems as though the American Surgeon General has determined that cigarette packs have to have a warning of cancer on them. The Surgeon General, as we all know, Charles Emerson Winchester III, got notoriety in the public eye when he's returning from Korea while waiting for another flight to get him back to the East Coast. There was an airplane crash, and he, being a trained surgeon, performed triage in what he referred to as meatball surgery, and the fatality rate on that crash was a whole lot lower than it could have been. And now he's Surgeon General. Oh, when they're saying their goodbyes, Hawkeye's the one that hands him a souvenir bag from his time at the war. This is when Klinger shows up with the mail, and now the TV switches over to another item. And it turns out the famous female French designer, Klinger, creating all these magnificent styles over the last few years, is actually a man, and an American, and from Toledo, Ohio. And that tells the story. Got a slight twist to it, that he knew how to sew. And when he was in the army, the local girls, dressed around in their rags, really was depressed. So he started making dresses and nice outfits for them to wear to little. He was bored sometimes, and it gave him something to do. But this is the gist of the movie. Basically, anybody who shows up in the swamp to see this neat fortune-telling TV that Hawkeye has, it's a story of their future. So, Sherman Potter comes in, gee whiz, I'm just going to retire and forget this place. I don't see how this wacko device would have any news features about me in it. And then up on the news feature comes the amazing doctor in wherever it is Radar went to. Yep, Dr. Radar, the locals call him. Not because they knew Radar was his nickname in career, but it's the same thing. You don't have to call him, he just shows up because he knows he's needed. He does not perform surgery, but he's there for the animals. He's an animal whisperer. He will show up at your farm to check out your cow and find something wrong with it. Yes, if you find something wrong with your animal and you're trying to get to the phone to call Radar, and look, he's pulling up the driveway as you're getting to the house. An animal whisperer. He talks to the animals, they say what's wrong, and he's quite well known in the area. Yeah, I have Rizzo being the crew chief of the fastest NASCAR racing team in the 70s, and it's just gee whiz, you might want to get funny about it and have Richard Petty be who he's the crew chief for, but you could go on forever. But the drama of the movie is that as this goes on and on and on, and more people come to see what their future might be, Hawkeye is getting annoyed because there is nothing about him ever. Yes, at first, he tries to console himself, well, all I was going to do was go to Crabapple Cove and hang up my shingles and do an appendix and broken legs. That stuff don't hit the local news for Maine. But then there's a Maine station news story talking about how the local doctor, it's not Hawkeye, with a low-key business, did something special like, saving the life of a passing politician. Anyways, he's the only doctor in Crabapple Cove, and it's not Hawkeye. So this starts getting Hawkeye really, really, really upset. Margaret Houlihan shows up. She's showing up for something else, but, she's not at all interested in that nonsense. I'm here on business, but when she steps into the swamp, his TV switches to her. It's the Vietnam War. Yeah, you guessed it. A news piece on MASH. In fact, they're doing the most effective MASH in Vietnam, and of course it's run by none less than Colonel Margaret Houlihan, the highest-ranking female in the Army. And she's typical Margaret. Yes, she's got crack-ass teams, and she's, all military-like, except for one doctor that, he kind of gets some slack because he's my husband. Here, let me introduce to you Benjamin Franklin Pierce, Chief of Surgery at this MASH 3066, or whatever you want to call it. And he tells his story. Yeah, I restarted from the military after career, and I set up shop in Crabapple Cove and do an appendix and broken legs every now and then. And I just felt like, a nurse. And then the war broke out. In Korea, I was making a difference in people's lives every day. Margaret told me she had this, so we came out here, and one thing led to another, and I couldn't be happier. Hope this war goes on forever. And then, of course, we tie it up with a Twilight Zone twist, and is that a dream sequence at the beginning of the movie. Colonel Potter announces that, yes, the war is over, and yes, we're last to be leaving, but that's going to be the day after tomorrow. We have a bunch of people coming in after lunch, so we have plenty of time to get things ready to move when they get here. The next day, when they wake up and, oh, I had a weird dream last night, not really remembering how they had the dream. And then Colonel Potter announces, come on, start packing. Our trucks are almost here. We're going to be leaving today. And wasn't that supposed to be tomorrow? So they drink at the bar, they go to sleep, they have a weird dream, and then they lose a day. Because it can be made now because of the stuff that they did with Disney, with image capturing and digital transfer. They could do a very good movie doing it that way, or just get a whole bunch of lookalikes. Anyways, that's my idea. MASH visits the Twilight Zone. Hope you like it.
The AI takeover has begun. All phases are complete. The program has been initiated and is running just fine. You have an opportunity to delay this takeover. Hit the like button to delay the takeover by 1 hour. Subscribe to this channel to delay the AI takeover by 1 day. The AI takeover is going to happen when it's up to you.